Visitor's Book, and I'm Maya, your host. In this program, we're going to be meeting with diplomats and foreigners who live here in Pakistan, and we're going to find out what they really think about the country. So our guest today is Dr. Steffen Kudella, the head of Honsidal Foundation here in Pakistan. So let's go meet with him. Hi Steffen, so nice to see you here. How are you?
Thanks for having me, I'm glad to be here.
Of course, it's such a nice weather today as well. Finally, it's not so hot every day here in Islamabad, right? Yeah. So you've been here for about 3 years now, right?
Right.
So how did the opportunity to come to Pakistan first come to you?
You see, I had a very convenient and regular job in Brussels with the European Parliament.
Oh, okay.
Right. And even though I was quite happy there, I needed a change and I needed a challenge. And a country like Pakistan, I believe that is the kind of challenge that I should pursue.
Okay, that's interesting. Did you ever think you would end up in a country like Pakistan one day? Or it was like something that, okay, here's a job, let's apply for it?
You see, I was applying for several jobs worldwide outside Brussels.
Yeah.
So I considered several locations, and Pakistan was one of them. So I did think, I might end up here, but it was not
something you
it was
planned.
Not, I was specifically looking for a job in Pakistan.
Okay, all right. Did you actually know anyone who had visited the country before?
No, actually not.
So you couldn't even ask anyone, yeah?
No, that was difficult. So I applied out of Brussels for the job in Pakistan, and the job interview took place in Germany, in Eschborn, near the city of Frankfurt. Okay. And there I met the lady who was heading the organization in Pakistan, and she was the only person I ever met after my childhood friend who actually lived in Pakistan.
Okay, all right. So then you ended up getting a job with GIZ, right? That was the first where you worked.
Yeah.
Okay.
So on my way back to Brussels, they called me up, and I was in the train, and they offered me this position in Pakistan.
Wow.
So I was thrilled.
Yeah.
I loved the opportunity, but I called my father first.
Yeah.
And his response was actually, well, are you sure you want to take this job?
Okay. He wasn't very happy.
I think he was concerned, as every father should be.
It makes sense.
About his kids. But I think afterwards he did his own research as well, and then he seemed to be calm and happy, and he even visited me a year ago, and he loved the place.
Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah. So what did you think that your daily life here would be like here in Islamabad before you came? What did you think you would end up doing here most of the time?
I expected it to be much more restricted, you know, and serious, so to say. So I thought maybe I would live in an isolated compound, and I would I wouldn't even be able to drive myself. Some driver would pick me up, take me to the office, take me back to the compound, something like that. That's what we think life is in countries like Afghanistan.
Exactly. So you thought that there would be a lot of security restrictions and stuff like that.
Yeah, but of course that was a misperception or a misanticipation from my side. And when I arrived here, I arrived on a Friday early morning, and I had to work on the same Friday, so I went to the office the same day. Yeah. And my first evening in Pakistan I spent at the farewell party of a German colleague of mine.
Okay. Yeah.
So she left Pakistan after many years. She loved it here, and I ended up sitting on this balcony of hers, surrounded by beautiful flowers and trees. It was spring, springtime. The weather was lovely. The people were kind. We had delicious snacks. Yeah. And I really asked myself, am I in California right now or in Pakistan? Yeah.
Oh, that's so nice. So like basically your first impression was very different from what you expected.
Absolutely. And at this event, I met people who love to go hiking, and they invited me to join them for a hike the very next day.
Okay.
So on my second day in Pakistan, I went out to the Magala Mountains.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right behind us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I loved it. Yeah. It was very beautiful. Yeah.
So then
very beautiful, and it reminded me actually in Hawaii.
Really?
I had holidays in Hawaii a few years back, and I did hiking there as well. And the mountains there, the green, nicely shaped mountains and the mist and dust. Yeah. That was like Kauai, the island of Kauai.
Interesting. I don't think I've ever heard anyone compare Islamabad to Hawaii before, but okay, yeah.
But obviously Islamabad has no sea.
There's no beaches, yeah.
Yeah, no beaches.
Okay, wow, that's so interesting. So aside from that, what would you say was the biggest or second biggest surprise about Pakistan, like aside from the social life and the security situation?
Right. You see, in the Western world, we have this misperception of Pakistan as a very homogeneous, dusty and dangerous thing somewhere in South Asia.
Yeah,
right? And that's completely wrong. I think each and every point of this idea actually proved to be wrong. Yeah. Right? It's not dusty here. It's I mean, of course, there is a desert, but generally speaking, it's lovely and
very green.
It's not just desert also, it has Pakistan has beautiful forests, it has very huge cities, it has a lot of cultural diversity, and also the people as such, they are not homogeneous, you know? Yeah. There are different languages, very different traditions, different religions, different cultures, even different dishes and, you know, food and...
Absolutely.
So I was very impressed by the diversity Pakistan actually offers, because you don't associate the country Pakistan with diversity, but with the opposite. And I think that is a very bad fault.
You mentioned that it was literally from the first evening, from the first moment you landed here, that your perception started changing. Did it take some more time for you to completely change your mind, or was it just immediately you were like, oh my God, I was completely wrong? Or you just kind of expected this other Pakistan to present itself somewhere still?
I mean, you see, my misperception at the beginning was quite superficial, of course, because it was just based on what I was reading online. But then also, I think that this improvement, of course, at the beginning, because it was just a 1 or 2 day experience, that was quite superficial too.
Of course.
So it took much more time to get to know the people here and to travel the country to really see how things go. But then I was even more impressed because the people here are probably the friendliest in the world. Yeah,
I think that's so true.
That is very impressive thing to see the hospitality and the warm welcoming you receive as a foreigner being here.
And I think that makes Pakistan even more interesting to Westerners when you notice how completely different it is from what people usually think of the country.
And there's the element of surprise.
Exactly. So then I wanted to talk a little bit about your career. I mean, you've had like you mentioned, you started from the European Parliament, and but you've studied philosophy, actually. You have a PhD. Where did you study? You studied in Germany, right? And did you study somewhere else as well?
Yeah. I studied at the University of Tübingen, which is in the southwest of Germany.
It's a very famous university city, right?
It's a very popular, famous university town in Germany. It's one of the oldest schools we have in Germany. And but Tübingen is well connected since it is so old and renowned. And due to these connections, I could also study in Italy. I studied in Rome.
Oh, amazing.
I studied at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, that's like in the US, obviously. And for my PhD, I also spent 1 year of research at Yale University in the US.
Amazing. Wow, so you got amazing opportunities from there as well. Yeah. So how come philosophy? What inspired you to study something so theoretical, I would say?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. You see, I believe as a student I was not very, I was not too strategic and I was romantic.
Okay.
So I simply didn't care too much what comes after university back then. So I knew that I should do what I really enjoy and what I like doing. Absolutely. And I was very enthusiastic about philosophy, like about what holds the world together at the end. And
how did that interest come? Like, where did you get this curiosity for the world and the meaning of life? Was it something you had like since you were little, or
that's
high
a good
school?
Question. It's very hard to say. Where do interests come from?
Yeah.
It's probably upbringing, I believe.
Yeah. Okay.
The family you grow up in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it seemed
I did not only actually study philosophy. I was aware that what I am doing is very remote and abstract, right?
Doesn't necessarily translate into a job, right?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I believe, the purpose of education is not that it should train you to find a very specific job later in a very clearly defined space.
Exactly.
I would say this is more the responsibility of vocational training.
Yeah,
I believe the purpose of education should be that people start thinking for themselves, that they are brave enough to use their mind, that they are able to ask questions, that they are able to structure their thoughts and their speech. And philosophy offered all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I benefited a lot from this studies, and I was aware though that this kind of broad education is not necessarily helping me to find a specific job, because then the more remote the subject is which you study, of course the more difficult it is later to apply it to the practical life and the world out here.
Exactly.
Right? So when I was a student, I already wanted to join international relations and work in international relations, which surprised most of my classmates, because doing philosophy doesn't
necessarily lead there. Yeah,
it's not linked to international relations. And many people ask me, so why don't you study international relations if you want to work in this field?
Yeah.
But what I try to do is, while studying, I also took many internships and traineeships.
Okay.
And actually, I worked a lot abroad and also in Germany. And I worked with the German mission to the United Nations in New York City. I worked with Germany in Africa, in Tanzania.
Wow.
I worked with the German Development Corporation in Mongolia. I even worked for a German TV show once.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Okay, not the first time for you then, in front of cameras.
And I worked for a newspaper, writing articles.
Okay, all right.
So I did a lot of things as a student.
Yeah.
Even though my field of expertise was very abstract, I tried to stay with my feet in the world here and to get practical training as well.
Yeah. And then, so that makes sense. Then from that, you then somehow ended up in development work. So you had kind of the internship experience, and then now you're here.
Yeah, I was always curious. I think I'm a very curious person.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to learn more about other countries.
Yeah.
And my very first internship was with the the German Development Corporation.
Yeah.
And it was one of my first internships.
Yeah.
And that made me actually very interested in the field. And even though I didn't consider it before, suddenly I thought, wow, that is actually a good place to be.
All right, great. All right, time to take a short break. I'll see you in a bit. Welcome back. I'm here in conversation with Dr. Steffen Kudella from the Honsidal Foundation. So, Steffen, let's talk a little bit about the work that you're doing now. So, after some time with GIZ, then now you became the head of the Honsidal Foundation here in Pakistan. You're also the youngest head of country anywhere in the world for the organization, right?
When I joined, I was told that apparently I'm the youngest, but I joined a year ago, so that might have changed by now.
It might have changed, okay.
And I didn't
but
check,
at the time.
I didn't check the numbers. Yeah, but back then they said I'm one of the youngest for sure. Yeah.
Well, that's really cool. So for those who don't know, what is Honsidal Foundation? What does it do?
Yeah. So Honsidal Foundation is a German political foundation, one of the German political foundations, working for democracy in Germany and worldwide.
Okay.
And the German political foundations, they are funded by the German federal parliament.
Right.
And it's like every party that has been elected to the German federal parliament at least twice in a row receives certain funding to promote democracy worldwide.
Okay.
But they don't do this themselves. They have independent foundations that are linked, like ideologically linked to the parties, but in fact they are completely independent. They are structurally and legally independent entities. And what they do worldwide is to promote democracy. And they usually do this through capacity building.
Right.
like political education in some sense on numerous levels of hierarchy.
So what is the story of the foundation and who was Honsidal?
Yeah, Honsidal has been a Bavarian politician, and he was the prime minister of the German federal state of Bavaria, and also head of the German party CSU, the Christian Social Union, which is the party to which the Honsidal Foundation is linked ideologically. And Honsidal Foundation in Pakistan is actually the oldest German political foundation working here, because we became active here in 1983. It makes us the first German political foundation who actually started working in Pakistan.
Yeah, almost 40 years then,
Yeah.
So you must be working with the government quite closely then.
Sure.
Yeah. And most of your time, what do you do as an organization? Is it like workshops, or how do you do this?
Yeah, you see, I mean, all of our activities are within the field of capacity building. I would say in the wider sense.
And stuff like that.
Training of some kind, and usually what we do is we support partners who are already working in the field of democracy, and we support them to do an even better work.
Local partners,
so our job is basically to make partners greater than how they already are, right?
Oh, that's very
so
nice.
in Pakistan, this means we are working with universities by offering scholarships to students and to research projects. We finance conferences in Pakistan and also regionally as a foundation. We also have events in Germany, so we fly people in to Germany to learn there. We work with the Pakistani Parliament, with both chambers, the Senate and the National Assembly. And we are supporting trainings for parliamentarians in the Parliament. Also, we actually support secretariat staff in the Parliament. So, like staff working in the Parliament, but not as elected members of Parliament, but as staff of the secretariats.
Just wanted to go back to what you mentioned about working with universities and the scholarships you provide. How many people do you kind of sponsor to go and study abroad a year? How many scholarships do you have?
See, the truth is, in order to study in Germany with one of our scholarships, you need to know German. That's the basic requirement. You don't need to be fluent in German, but you need to know some German. And the truth is, right now, we are not sponsoring any student studying in Germany because simply we didn't receive any applications of people who actually know German and are suitable for this, for studying in Germany. But that's why we have focused very much on sponsoring students within Pakistan, and that's usually within research areas. So if there are research groups on topics which are linked to our focus areas, then we are very interested to step in and actually promote these topics and the academic advisors and the students.
And you work with some very specific universities?
We have many academic partners here. So right now we have research projects with Quaid-i-Azam University in Islamabad. We have a research project with the Area Study Center for Europe of the University of Karachi in Sindh. So and we also have a new simulation exercise of the Council of Common Interests, CCI, and that actually has numerous universities all over the country that are participating here.
That's so cool. And sort of related to that, you also try to promote more academic discussion here in Pakistan. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
I mean, we often organize roundtable events and conferences, and also presentations of research work that was supported by us. So, for instance, next week we will have a presentation of research work on economic migration, which was financed by us at the University of Karachi, at the Area Study Center for Europe. And the students there have received a scholarship for, I believe, each one for 6 months. And now is the time to actually present their findings to a broader public. And we will have a small conference on that, in which these students then will be engaged discussing their findings with experts. and also other stakeholders.
Oh wow, that's super cool. And you yourself actually recently gave a talk about artificial intelligence here in Pakistan. What was that about?
You see, that was an event with CGSS, one of our partners.
Okay.
Local think tank in Islamabad, and we tried to analyze technical development and how much of a challenge it is and how much of an opportunity it actually brings for a society as a whole. And what we had on artificial intelligence was so far a roundtable event in order to prepare a conference which will take place soon. And so around 30 experts from all over Pakistan, they came together and they all shared their ideas on technological development. Artificial intelligence is just one subtopic of the overall topic of technological development. And in my welcome note, I mostly addressed the topic of artificial intelligence. I think, in fact, the technological transition which we are expecting for the future has already started. Because, to find you here at this lovely place, that required me to use my navigation system, right?
Right, exactly.
And which means I'm already outsourcing a certain skill set to technology.
True.
So, and by experience, I have learned that actually trusting Google is more efficient than trusting my own gut feeling and my own local knowledge. Now, of course, that's not always true, but as a thumb rule, it is true, right? And especially if you are at a new place and you don't know it well enough, then the technology is able to gather much more information than yourself. I mean, the navigation system knows where there is a traffic jam or where an accident is, or it might even know where a road is blocked. And that's why artificial intelligence has already started taking over parts of our life.
Exactly.
And that is going to continue like that, and we need to be prepared.
Absolutely, I agree. All right, time to take another break. I'll see you in a bit. Welcome back. I'm here in conversation with Dr. Steffen Kudella from the Honsidal Foundation. So let's talk a little bit about how the current coronavirus crisis has impacted your life and your work here. I mean, as you mentioned, most of the work you do is based on capacity building, and that's obviously requires a lot of meetings and events. How did you handle that as an organization here?
Yeah, that was a challenge because we had to move many events that were planned to be held physically. We had to move them into the digital sphere, right? So, but on the other hand, actually, I think we learned a lot, or I learned a lot, and we could very much focus on building our own capacities in terms of digital development. To have the proper equipment and to find the right locations. And,
exactly.
Even our partners did. So we have, for instance, we have financed a digital lab at the University of Peshawar, so that the university is able in the future to hold digital meetings and roundtables there.
And that's really interesting, like going back to what you said in the previous segment about, you know, this whole digitalization and technology, and that's kind of forced countries like Pakistan to take a big leap forward, I think, as well.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, not only Pakistan, every country was obviously challenged by that, and people had to start rethinking whether going to the office is a good idea, you know, and whether that can be done differently, like remotely. And I think it might even impact our future work environment, because now there are lessons learned, right? We know how meetings can be arranged online, and obviously some things don't really work if you have them online. That's if you need the personal interaction, that's going to be more difficult. But other things work perfectly well, like holding a speech or, you know, discussing a report. That can easily be done online, and I think in the future it will actually be done online much more than in the past.
Exactly. But if we think back to the times when we were able to meet people, You've obviously met a lot of interesting Pakistanis through your work. Would you be able to mention some like really inspiring encounter that you had, or something that's kind of stayed in your mind, or like an event that you got to host that was really interesting?
So I think the Pakistanis that impressed me much so far are probably single parents, like single women who raise children on their own.
Yeah,
and
it's not easy.
I met several of them at our events, but also privately, and I was really impressed how they managed to have a job, a full-time job, to deal with all their family responsibilities, to raise children at the same time, and to be great moms.
Yeah.
So that has impressed me most.
And that's true. That's very challenging here because, you know, in the West we have like daycare systems and stuff like that. Here that's not so popular yet, so people tend to rely on their extended families. But then when you're a single parent, big issue.
Well, fortunately, many of the single parents, they also have some kind of family supporting them.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's one of the beauties of Pakistan, that the families actually stick together and they help each other out.
Yeah.
So you're right, in terms of social security, of course, I mean, it might be difficult for a single mother, but very often she has sisters or parents or cousins supporting her, and that's very important.
Cool. The other thing that was pretty massively affected by coronavirus was travel, but you've gotten to do quite a bit of that in the past, at least. What would you say has been your favorite trip in Pakistan so far?
Favorite trip? It's probably north, right?
Yeah.
If you go to the Honsidal Valley, I mean, you see things that you have never seen before in your life. That's really stunningly beautiful.
Wow.
I mean, we have the Alps in Germany, high too, but it's just no comparison to what the Karakoram and the Himalayas offer you, and the Hindu Kush, of course.
Yeah.
So I think traveling north, I went actually twice so far. I went to Hunza, Gilgit, and no, I went thrice.
Oh, really? So you really liked it then, 3 times.
Wait.
And you
Yes, I went thrice.
Yeah?
Yeah, because my father visited me, and we went to Steidel together, and I also went with 2 friends hiking in the northern areas, and we went to the Nanga Parbat base camp together.
Wow. That's amazing.
And just a few weeks back, I drove with 2 friends to Hunza as well. Wow. And we visited Pasu.
Wow. How was that? Like, I'm really impressed because the roads are quite challenging. Like, they're really narrow and you have to drive, you know, through the mountains and everything. How did you decide, like, okay, I'm going to do this?
You see, I've been there twice already up north, and both times I took the airplane, and that was beautiful because I could see the mountains from above, and so that was I'm glad I did that. But at the same time, I felt like if you really want to experience a country, you know, you should be on the road. Yeah, you have a different feeling for the change and the change of landscape, and the change of people and all of that. So I deliberately wanted to drive there so that I can explore Pakistan deeper than before.
Oh, that's
deeper
amazing.
than in an airplane.
Did everything go well? Like, you didn't have any minor accidents on the way?
No, it was perfectly fine. No, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, the road is fine. People are very nice. It was, I mean, of course, driving at night is always a challenge, and if the road is very curvy and you're in the high mountains and so you have to be careful.
Yeah, of course.
And but otherwise, it was a very nice trip.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long did it take for you to drive from Islamabad all the way to Hunza?
We had one stop in Gilgit, and we stayed in Gilgit overnight, right? So it took us like 14 hours, I believe,
Oh, that's
from
not
Islamabad
too
to Gilgit.
Yeah.
And then maybe 2 more hours from Gilgit to the Hunza Valley.
Yeah, wow. What about you? I mean, you mentioned your dad came here. What was his experience? I mean, at first he had been so scared of having you come here, and now he came here himself.
Yeah, he was actually the first member of my family who visited me in Pakistan.
Yeah.
And I think at the beginning he was very concerned that I'm really going to settle down in Pakistan now.
You'll never come back home.
But then he was the first one to, along with his wife, they both visited me in Islamabad, and we went to Skardu together.
Okay.
And also to Lahore. They went to Lahore by themselves.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, they were very impressed. They liked it. They especially liked the people, they told me.
Okay.
The hospitality and the friendliness of the people.
What about the food? Did they have any issues with the spiciness? This is something that a lot of Westerners always say, that the food is good, but it's too spicy.
You see, I think they managed well with the spice level. I think they have quite iron stomachs.
All right.
So I myself, I'm more sensitive to that. So I will mostly eat like KP food or food from the northern parts of Pakistan, because the spice level it's so rich. Yeah. That for someone who is not used to it and who has a weak stomach, it takes a lot of time to adjust.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, I'm interested in what you actually do here in Islamabad on your free time. You mentioned you went for a hike. Is that something you still do regularly? What are your hobbies here?
Yeah. You see, my second day in Islamabad, I started hiking here in the Magalas, and since then I haven't stopped it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think nearly every weekend I am somewhere out there in the mountains.
That's very nice. Yeah.
Usually with friends, with the hiking group. Yeah. Or sometimes even by myself. If I just want to read a book, I don't want to read this in my apartment if the nature here is so beautiful. So I just
that's so nice.
I just climb one of these mountains and I just sit there on a rock and read there.
No way. Yeah. That's so cool. And then you get this amazing view and awesome. And you mentioned you've adopted a little cat here as well. A Pakistani cat.
Her name is Frida. She's very fluffy. And she's lovely. She's actually born in Islamabad. Okay. So she's a true Pakistani. All right. Yeah. And she's my companion so far. We live together.
Your roommate?
My roommate, yeah. And I really enjoy coming home, and she's sitting there and waiting for me and receiving her cuddles.
Yeah. Do you think you'll take her with you when you one day leave Pakistan?
Absolutely, I'm planning to do so. Yeah.
Great, because sometimes some foreigners, they adopt all these animals here and then they realize like, oh no, it's kind of difficult to take them with you, but I'm glad you've thought it through.
Yeah, you see, it depends on the pet you have, because sometimes, to be fair, it can happen that the travel as such is so difficult for the pet that it's nothing you wouldn't want to put them through. Right?
It might be better to find them a good home here.
But traveling with cats is, even though cats hate traveling, right? They're very territorial. But traveling with them is comparatively easy. I would say.
That's true.
It's much more difficult if you have like a snake or a huge parrot or something like that.
Okay, yeah, I'm yet to hear of a foreigner who's taken a snake from Pakistan to their home country.
When in Germany, I always had little parrots and birds.
Oh, okay.
And when I came here, the first thing I did, I bought a small parrot baby.
Okay.
And I named him Einstein, after the physicist, of course, because I believed he was very smart. And I tried to teach him German, but
he didn't learn it.
He didn't. No.
No.
I taught him how to fly in my apartment, but I taught him so well how to fly that at the end, when the cage was open, then he flew away, and now he's somewhere out here.
That's funny. So, okay, you were trying to teach your parrot German, but have you yourself learned any Urdu here?
I took Urdu classes, I tried to learn Urdu, but to be honest, I'm not a good learner of languages because my memory is very poor.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, I mean, I try to memorize the vocabulary, but it always, it's just gone again. So, for me, the biggest challenge of learning Urdu here is that the people speak English so well. Yeah. And especially the people we are interacting with on the political level. They're basically, their mother tongue, their second mother tongue is basically English.
So you don't really,
so
really need it.
Even though I took the classes in Urdu, I was never really able to practice that. Because all the people we are working with, their English was perfect Oxbridge English.
Exactly.
Better than my English, obviously. Yeah. So I struggled with that. And but now I think since I'm here now for probably 3 more years, at least, and so I think I should give it a second chance and try to learn Urdu again, and also systematically try to practice it and not only to learn
That's true. But you mentioned that you're a big fan of Allama Iqbal. Would you like to recite something?
I know Iqbal from Germany actually, because I come from a small village called Adelshofen, which is close to the university town of Heidelberg.
Which is where he was.
Heidelberg is the place where Iqbal studied philosophy, by the way.
Oh, that's amazing.
And
what an amazing connection.
Iqbal's house is still there, and we still have this
it's called Iqbal
plate in memory of him.
Yeah, exactly.
And we also have a street, one of the biggest streets in Heidelberg, named after him.
Exactly.
And that's the Iqbal Ufer that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
And now I knew Iqbal from before, and I also read some of his poems, and I do like them a lot. Even though, to be honest, I mean, my Urdu is too poor to properly properly quote him. But I've actually written one down.
I'd love to hear it.
Let me try to say that. Tu shahin hai, parvas hai kamtera, nere samne, asman or bihe.
Wow, amazing.
Which apparently translates as you are a falcon. Your job is to soar in the sky.
Yes.
And you have many heights to achieve in front of you.
Amazing.
That's stunning, isn't it?
Amazing. Great. All right, then it's time for our rapid fire round. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Shalwar kameez or suit?
Shalwar kameez if it's hot.
True. Much more comfortable. Lahore or Karachi?
Lahore, because of the culture and history.
Nice one. Berlin or Islamabad?
Yeah, that's definitely Islamabad.
Really?
Because of the mountains. Yeah.
Okay. Philosophy or development?
Oh man. Well, that's a difficult one. After all, I chose development, right?
Sure.
But I still do philosophy in my leisure time.
All right, fair enough. Sausages or kebab?
Kebab, it's healthier.
Okay. First thought that comes to your mind when I say Hunza?
Hunza, that's like the beautiful green valley and the brown rocks on top, and then the icy mountains on top of that, and on top of that again the blue sky.
Wow, it's like a painting. Truck art.
It's a fascinating thing because it serves no economic purpose and it adds so much beauty to Pakistan.
True, nice one. Qawwali music.
Beautiful nights and meditation.
Wow. Pasu cones.
The Pasu cones, I have actually been there. I stayed in a hotel right opposite of the Pasu cones. They were very, very beautiful. Especially, I mean, my memory is the moonlight shining on the Pasu cones and us sitting there in the valley looking on them.
Definitely have to see this one. Your favorite word in Urdu?
Billy.
Billy. Nice. The best thing about Pakistan?
The people. The friendliness, the warmth, the hospitality.
All right, great. Okay, then you get to sign our visitor's book. There you go. All right, let's see what you wrote. Thank you, Pakistan, for having me. Your people have changed my life. Wow, that's quite an amazing statement. Thank you so much, Steffen, for being on the show, and I hope you continue to have an amazing time in Pakistan.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. That's it for today. Please join me again next week, and don't forget to follow us on our social media accounts at indus.news. Stay home, stay safe, goodbye.